Hello and welcome back to the Point and Laugh podcast with your hosts
Skyler
and Kaylynne.
Yeah.
We just start.
Is that the improv you were talking about?
No. So, yesterday we went to the magical, lovely, wonderful, spectacular, dusty, hot, scalding
BO
Renaissance Fair.
The Renaissance Pleasure Fair.
Yes, fair with an E.
For pleasure.
For pleasure and Renaissance.
and fair.
And fairs. But I was verbally attacked.
You were
upon entry.
Okay, so one of the things that I love about like my hometown Renaissance Fair doesn't do this, but I think the past 2 years that I've gone to the California Renaissance Fair is that the performers are actively encouraged to kind of like interact. And you can tell that like some people need to get into the habit of actually engaging with the people, because like if you're if you're from LA, you're so used to people like yelling at you in the street and you're not engaging. Yeah. You're just like, yeah, for sure. That you have to like train yourself to be like, no, this is good. This is part of the bit. Yeah. Like when you're walking towards the entrance, they have like, you know, fake Renaissance people like selling like fake products. And they're just like, you there, would you like to sell and purchase my wares of fish heads? And they won't let you leave. And your first thought is be like, nah, man, I'm good. And then like put a hand up and walk away.
All eye contact.
And then you're like, oh, wait, you're not actually selling me something on like a bus. You're actually, this is a bit that you're doing. Yeah. And so the performers will like kind of pick people out of a crowd and like be like, you there, your jeans have rips in them. Were you attacked by a pirate? And you're supposed to like, you know, banter with them. And one of the performers, which is cool because why I wanted to engage with him is I saw that he had like a fat stack of like poems. And I'm like, oh, like you're a performer. You're not just some dickhead in like an outfit that's going to like make us sit on your lap. Like last year where some dickhead just make us sit on his lap. And we're like, oh, are you with the fair? He wasn't.
Is that confirmed?
No, I just feel it in my bones.
Yeah, no.
And so his bit was like, he was like a limbricist, or he was a Shakespearean whatever. And I stopped to talk to him, and, you know, he read me a poem. And then for some reason he was like, it's like, Kaylynne, he set his sights on you as like an audience participant. And he noticed that you were pale.
Yeah, that I was pale. He was like, or no, it was my boots.
Oh,
yeah. He asked me about my boots first. He never even explained what it meant.
No.
But he was like, oh, I like ye boots. Can you do it was like a 7-something step. And I was like, what is that? Can you explain? I was like, well, these boots are made for walking. Maybe I can.
Yeah, and our friend Keely was like, my boots can. He goes, you think you're puny things? And I'm like, oh, this is fun. This is banter. Then he's like, your skin is so.
Well, he's like, you pale one. And I was like, me?
I don't even think I think I was the paler one in our group, so I don't know why he said that you were the pale one.
I know, I was like,
me?
Okay. No, but it was kind of funny. But he said something, because then I wasn't actually offended. I am pale, like I don't care. But I was like, oh, me? And he was like, oh, well, like, you know, he basically said like real recognize real in like Renaissance talk.
And he's like, because one of the things,
like, you are my sister. Like,
yeah, exactly. And one of the things, I mean, not every performer does this, but they try to remain in character at all times, so they can't be like, are you wearing sunscreen? So he was just like, are you properly slathered? You got that one. You went, yes.
I know.
I am. Yes. I am. And then he said something like, doth thine merciless fire demon kiss thine shoulders, because you're talking about your freckles.
Yeah, I have very freckly shoulders. I have a lot of freckles. Yeah, because I think that was when I was like, but I'm not. I'm like, I guess I am pale. I don't know. And he was like, well, you're. I just said that because you're the freckles.
Meanwhile, I'm actively getting burned next to you. In the period
I had
of time
to apply so much sunscreen
before I got my parasol, in like the 15 minutes of time overall that I was parasol-less, I was cooking. I could feel it.
Yeah, it was bad. You did get a beautiful, beautiful parasol. It was like lace and gold, and it was stunning.
I needed to very quickly realize how to walk in a fucking packed crowd with a parasol,
Ooh,
though.
yeah.
I was like lifting that all the way up like Mary Poppins
Yeah,
style.
I know. I'm like very, very
Especially
Mary Poppins.
as more and more people also got umbrellas and parasols, it became like dominance, and like
Yeah.
spikes were poking spikes that I kept like having to like
readjust.
jumping up and down, ducking low, making
Yeah.
sure they didn't actually like, poke someone in the face.
It's like a little oh my god, wait, why can't I think of the word?
You got it.
A-
If you keep jumping
a-
up and down, I'm sure it'll come to you. Me when your mom when I
want to say scavenger hunt. That's not right, guys. Do you know what the fuck like an obstacle course?
scavenger hunt?
It was like the only related thing I could think of. My brain needs work. But the whole reason we brought this up is because before we started recording, I said a very white thing, and I said I feel like I really need to work, or I need to like reinvigorate my improv skills.
Yeah, I feel like I really need to get back into improv. And I was like, only white people say shit like this.
Not like in a performance way, but in a like everyday like
Quick-witted, like response
exactly,
kind of way.
Exactly. Because for those of you who don't know, one of my many I was gonna say shames, but I feel like if it was truly something I was ashamed of, I'm a little bit proud of it. If I was truly ashamed of it, I wouldn't bring it up as often as I do. But when I was in high school, I was on. We had a really good theater program at my high school. And we had a really good like improv program, which is just like
that's an oxymoron.
Yeah. Which was just like a weird like niche that we had, but we like won state titles, and like we had like JV improv and varsity improv, and I was on the varsity improv team for like 2 years.
Can you get the varsity jacket for improv?
No,
how funny! It's just like a clown uniform.
We literally. They just give you a little nose that goes like.
You're like, I was varsity improv team. That sentence should be like on a Cards Against Humanity. Prompt and card.
But I don't know, sometimes I'm like, damn, was I funnier in high school? And it's funny because
yes, and
it's funny because last weekend my best friend from high school, Cassidy, you asked for your shout out. Here's your shout out. I've shouted her out on previous episodes. Actually, she asked me, she was like, will you send me all the episodes that you talk about me on? And I'm like, girl,
how about you just watch all of them?
I know, I'm like, I don't know.
Watch all of them, and then you'll find out for yourself, okay?
But Cassidy is very, like, her comedy style is very bit-based. Oh, yeah. So she kind of got me back into the, like, you know, continue the yes-anding of, like, when someone starts a bit. I feel like I kind of lost that, and I need to... You know
what? Part of me, I'm kind of glad. Having been, I used to be, like, more bit-based in my humor, and then I was at a party where everyone else was doing a bit that I wasn't in, and suddenly I realized how fucking annoying and obnoxious bit-based humor is when you're not in on it. Yeah. Because then it's like, guys, end it, cut it, print it, I hate it, stop it.
I feel like doing a bit really only works like one-on-one. Yeah. It doesn't work in a group scenario, but one-on-one, I think it can be very funny.
Yeah, in a group scenario, if everyone else is doing like the same bit that you're not in, it's like, should I leave the room?
Yeah, it's like,
do you guys want to have some privacy? Should I dim the lights if you're so insistent on fucking each other? Should I just give you some privacy?
Yeah.
God.
No, it can definitely be bad. No, but there are definitely moments where I'm like, have I like lost my personality since high school? Like, I feel like I was funnier.
I was awful in high school. Every day I'm better than who I was in high school.
That's the thing is I do feel like it's like the grass is always greener. It's one of those things. Like, I feel like if I actually met my like high school self, I would be like, holy shit.
It's like the whole like, you owe it to your younger self. And I'm like, if I met my younger self, I would punt that. She was trying. She did the best with what she could, but I guarantee
she tried.
If someone was like, hey, can you watch my kid? And it was like 11-year-old me, I'd be like, God, this kid is annoying and sucks. Yeah. They'd be like, hi, my name is Skyler. You look fat in that dress. I'd be like, oh, cool. I didn't actually say that, but I would have thought it because I was mean.
Yeah. Weren't we all?
I was projecting.
Yeah, I'm like, we were just products of our, of our environments and our societies. And we, unfortunately, as young children, don't have the, nuanced perspectives necessary to deconstruct, like complex topics like
I'm not like other girls.
Yeah.
Can I talk to you about my Harry Potter theories?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Why won't no one sit with me at lunch? You have a lot of pimples.
Have you heard of Dan and Phil?
No, I was not a Dan and Philler. I don't know if I could. I already was at max cringe. I couldn't fit any more in there.
No, and I was there, and I
was in the trenches.
I truly was in. I was in the trenches.
How are we gonna pivot?
Yeah, I'm like, anyway, all
right.
Oh, no.
Actually, there is a way to pivot. I'm improving. This is how it's done. Kaylynne, take notes.
Take notes. I'm actively writing.
What was the actually Dan and Phil? What was the biggest conspiracy with them? Right, that they were in a relationship and no one knew about it.
Yes, and no, yeah, everyone tried to ship
decode.
Them. Yeah, everyone shipped them, and everyone also actively like thought, because they were roommates for a long time.
Oh my God, they were roommates,
and everyone was like, oh, and they're fucking. Like,
I even remember, like, I wasn't a part of that fandom, but I even remember people, like, pausing the video and being like, see, like, someone commented, like, if you guys are in a secret relationship, we're blue, and they both wore blue, and I'm like, that your comment got no likes. Yeah, I don't know if they saw it.
And they got no bitches.
Because they had each other.
I meant the commenter.
Oh.
It's okay. My improv skills still need a little work. So,
but that's the pivot. Is today I want to talk about conspiracy theories. Yes. And TLDR, we have lost the plot. Because I feel like when you're young, conspiracy theories are like this kind of fun thing where you're just like, you're Nicolas Cage, you're going to steal the Declaration of Independence, you're going to uncode some ancient historical cover-up, you're going to say that Mary Todd Lincoln was actually like an alien. It's fun. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the conspiracy theories about like things like aliens and more like mundane things, they're like fun, they're harmless, who cares if, the Roswell alien, like it's fun, you can make merch about it, and like, ooh, there's a secret underground portal in like the New York subway system. That doesn't affect anyone.
Yeah.
Like it's just like a fun little,
like,
you read too much books as a kid and maybe it scrambled your brain a little bit, but who cares? But I feel like the rise of having conspiracy theories, not only like actively in my face because of social media, but also being kind of weirdly legitimized by actual like news outlets like CNN, be like interviewing conspiracy theorists, really have pushed the idea of like the conspiracy nut to the forefront of my brain. So like where before conspiracy theorists would really only be like someone you met every once in a while with like their tinfoil hat, maybe they live in a van, and you just be like, oh, I only really know one, because of like, things like Twitter and TikTok just kind of pushing like more and more isolated communities onto like your For You page. I'm kind of being shoved it more and more, and it kind of made me start to think like, hey, why though? It seems like there's more of them. It doesn't seem that that's actually the case, but just that we're seeing it more. So I actually have a couple of sources. Be very proud of me. So I have an article. It says, speaking of psychology, why people believe in conspiracy theories, with Karen Douglas, PhD. Basically, Karen Douglas went on a podcast and talked about another podcast. Check out that podcast. I'm going to steal their podcast and put it on my podcast, like a podcast Columbus. Because she was really succinct and like kind of explained like kind of where the phenomenon comes from. Because I want to start off being like, why conspiracy theories? Because they're not always fun. Sometimes they can really have like a nosedive into like some really gross types of things. Do you have or have you had like conspiracy theories that you aligned yourself with? Yeah. I have a couple. And most of them are kind of the harmless ones. Like the Martin Luther King Jr. being assassinated by the FBI is not even a conspiracy theory, that it has been confirmed by the FBI. But also like JFK assassination probably having something to do with the government. That makes the most sense to me. I go 50-50 on whether the moon landing was fake or not, just because like, interesting. And I'm going to get into it later, but a lot of the times like conspiracy theories need not only motive, but the proper means to get there. Do I think it was CGI? No, because 1960s CGI was like, it didn't it wasn't that. We haven't actually just been sitting on like 2023 Pixar level CGI and just haven't been using it until now. You know what I mean? But like, yeah, there was motive there just because, you know, Russia was beating us in the space race and we needed something really fast and you could put together something fast on a stage. But I don't actually, that's just kind of like a fun one where I'm like, yeah, I get why people would believe that.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of conspiracy theories that like you hear the reasoning behind it and you're like, okay, I understand. I understand why people might, you know, believe in that. I don't think there's enough like legitimate, credible sources to, you know, confirm that. I will say one that I like, the Mandela effect is one that I kind of not even like struggle or battle with, because I'm sure it's just like
hubris being like, no, I'm not wrong, you're wrong.
Well, it's just like I'm sure it's just me misremembering things because God knows I mean, we all fucking know my memory is non-existent. But like the Berenstein versus Berenstain Bears, like that was a big one for me because I was like, holy shit, like it was the Berenstein Bears. Like that's how I remember it. Yeah. And then you go back and you look at everything and you're like, ugh. Like,
yeah, even why it's called the Mandela effect is the belief that like Nelson Mandela died in prison. He's like, he didn't. It's like, I could have sworn he did, but like what's more likely? That our timelines diverge, or that you got African history wrong.
Yeah.
And you confuse one
at
famous
like
black leader with another famous black leader. Like, who's with, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, and I'm like, oh my God, I remembered it, the Berenstein Bears. Bitch, you were like 5.
Yeah.
I'm like, you could barely read. Yeah, I'm like, that's probably why you misremembered it, because you couldn't fucking read. So it's like, yeah, it's like stuff like that where I'm like, you know, where it's like, you know, there's like reasoning behind it where you can, you know, reasonably understand why someone might believe it. But then of course there's more like vicious conspiracy theories that I'm sure you'll get into. So I'll let you. Oh, sorry, while we're my beverage of the day.
Oh, yes.
I'm like, while I'm speaking. No, sorry.
While I have the floor for once.
I have the floor, yeah. Let me get on my beverage soapbox. No, it's a little boring today. I have been on like the coffee bean grind recently. It's just so much better than, I mean, most coffee shops are better than Starbucks, to be completely honest. But I don't know. I really like their stuff. So I got a caramel latte cold brew, which I don't know.
My name is what? My name is who?
Yes, that's the beverage. I'm so glad I interrupted your well thought out and scripted idea so that I could tell everyone that I'm drinking a fucking coffee.
We love consistency. So anyway, according to Karen Douglas, a conspiracy theory can normally be defined as a proposed plot carried out in secret, usually by a powerful group of people who have some kind of sinister goal, so something to gain from what they're doing, and they usually don't have people's best interests at heart, usually their own interests at heart. And some people think that the belief in conspiracy theories has been on the rise in recent years, fueled by social media. But in a paper a few years ago, Douglas concluded that wasn't necessarily true. Instead, Douglas found that conspiracy theories have always thrived during times of crisis and social upheaval, with examples going back as far as the burning of Rome while Nero was away, and that the last decade hasn't been particularly more conspiracy-prone than the past. And believing in conspiracy theories and being suspicious about the actions of others is in some ways quite an adaptive thing to do. Like we don't necessarily want to trust everybody and trust everything that's happening around us, which makes sense, because like I think that's where I started this whole thing, is like, why do people even believe in conspiracy theories in the first place? And I think a lot of it, like, you have the bigger conspiracy theories, and you know, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense, the government's lying to us, what else is new? And like the fun ones, like behind Mount Rushmore is like a secret hidden lab, those are funny. But like, why do people behave this way? Why do people cling so much to reading between the lines? And I had a theory, but it was kind of cool to see, like, you know, what Kieran has to say. And yeah, it's like our adaptive need to be suspicious of what we're being told, because we're like stubborn creatures of animalistic proportions. And even if we can't say for sure that social media has increased conspiracy theories, it's certainly changed the way in which people access this information, the ways in which they share this information. And in many cases, for people who do have an underlying tendency to believe in a particular conspiracy theory or conspiracy theories in general, it's much easier for people to find this sort of information now than it ever has been before. So like I was saying, if you wanted to be like, not Bridge of Terabithia, the other alien movie, Race to Witch Mountain. Mm-hmm. You could go to like alien conventions and you could meet like other weirdos. You could subscribe to like a conspiracy magazine. But most conspiracy theorists, like lived out in the woods, communicated via like walkie-talkie in their bunkers, and were crazy by themselves. And the spread of the information, you kind of had to go out of your way to find it. But now, obviously, we all have like a computer on our phones. The way that you can access the most out there conspiracy theories, and the way that people can interact with the algorithm, making it so they have their own conspiracy theory bubble, make it so it seems like it's everywhere, and it's way easier to find and way easier to snuff out than it was in the past.
Yeah, I think the internet and social media have definitely...
Was a mistake?
Well, yeah. Has definitely, like, increased the accessibility to conspiracy theories and those types of communities. And in the same way with, like, social media and algorithms also, but also, like, the social connectivity aspect of, like, social media and the internet and Reddit and things like that. Like, people have so much more access to those communities. So it's like, if you find a conspiracy theory that like you really latch onto, you can then seek out those communities and like talk to other like-minded individuals who are then just going to kind of like perpetuate that idea further.
Yeah, and it's so easy to be consumed by the information that way when you are in that bubble, because you can choose to only seek out that information that you're looking for. You can only go to particular sources that you can find. You can disregard other sources. You can become like very polarized, very isolated, and your attitudes can become stronger because that's kind of all you know. That's all you've been surrounding yourself with. And so they were going, they kind of talked more about like a couple different aspects of why people get so like, neck deep into these conspiracy theories. She said, so people with lower levels of education tend to be drawn to conspiracy theories. And she said, we don't argue that that's because people are not intelligent. And they want to put that out there. They're not like poor people are dumb. That's not what they're saying. But what they are saying is the lower levels of education, it means they haven't been allowed to have, or they haven't been given access to the tools to allow them to differentiate between good sources and bad sources, or credible and non-credible sources. So they're looking for the certainty of the universe, looking for that knowledge. They want to seek out, they want to learn, but they just haven't been taught the difference between like a sketchy source and like an actual credible source. And without that level of like information and context going into something, you're just going to take everything on face value. It's kind of like, the lead paint generation believing AI images. You're like, hey, that's weird how that one person has 6 fingers, huh? Anyway, here's a picture of Biden drowning next to the Pope. And you're like, Grandma,
yeah.
That's not it. And so as far as motives go, one of them is the search for knowledge. They obviously want to learn more about the world, and they're just kind of going about it in like a never-ending quest. And if they find the information, they want to learn more. Like a lot of times for a lot of people, they just kind of they go into research and then they stop. Like for this podcast episode, I really only went to like 2 different sources and I was done, but for a lot of people who maybe they didn't have like the best school system, they still have that desire to learn and to research, but they don't want that research to end. So that's how you go down like hyper specific rabbit holes of like, where's more information? And sometimes the truth is just that, like, this is the truth, that we don't have anything else to offer you. But then conspiracy theorists are like, no, there's more to the story. There's more to the story. And there's always going to be more to the story if you keep adding on different theories. It's like tapping into that permanent quest for more information, more knowledge, that people get sucked into like the idea of, but there's more to the story, but there's more that they're not telling you. There's more to this than meets the eye. The second set of motives is existential motives, and that really just refers to like people's needs to feel safe and secure in the world that they live in, and also to feel that they have some kind of autonomy and power over the things that happen to them. So like when something happens, they don't like to feel powerless, they don't like to feel out of control, and conspiracy theories is kind of a way to make them feel like if they feel powerless or that they've been taken advantage of by some sort of government or larger force, that they can kind of like feel that they have at least like, yeah, but they don't know that I know this about them.
Yeah.
So I have the upper hand because I'm in on it. I know what they're up to. I'm on their trail. Like, they didn't brainwash me. Like, I'm in on it, and they don't know it. They just lost one sheep. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, it's like that false enlightenment of like, I know something that you don't.
Yep, exactly. And the third is what you were talking about, that social aspect. So if someone feels ignored, isolated, like, you know, a lot of times, like, we don't talk to our grandparents, our parents, the kind of like the older generations, they can feel isolated, they can feel left out. And it's easier for them to feel fear about the outside world if they're not constantly being exposed to it. And if there are some new things out there, they can feel more threatening and jeopardizing. And so they seek community with other like-minded people who are close, encouraging, steadfast, who won't leave them behind.
Yeah.
And, you know, if someone's spouting off nonsense, you're well within your rights to be like, okay, well, if my grandmother's homophobic, I don't want to hang around her anymore. But unfortunately, now that she's lost the only gay person she knows in her life, it's so easy for someone who does care about her, who does check in on your grandma, to be like, oh, it's because the gay people are unfortunately like scalping children to like have sex with other men. And you're like, oh, that makes so much sense. I get it now. Because they've lost that actual tangible human connection to like reality. And with an absence of that, they can be pumped in with nonsense.
It perpetuates that idea of like otherness.
Yep. Yeah. And this is tea. It's linked to the idea for the need for uniqueness. And you know how I feel about needing to feel unique. So I get this bit. You guys, I understand. Like, again, you're in possession of information that other people don't have. You're different to other people, and that makes you stand apart. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's I know something you don't know. It's like you have this, it's like you're in this secret club that no one else is in, and you can see, it's like you're in the Matrix. They love to talk about the Matrix. It's like the rest of the world just see like black and white, but you see all the colors. The veil has been lifted. You see what other people don't see. You have the sight. You're the special. Dumbass. And they even talked about in this podcast, like I'll put a link in the description notes because this is a really cool podcast to take a listen to. And the idea of like contradictory conspiracy theories, because like once you believe in like a handful, it's so easy to believe in others because you're already there, you know, like but a lot of times these conspiracy theories can be contradictory, you know. It's people can believe at the same time that like Trump is still the president of the United States and Biden is a secret figurehead, but you also believe that Biden is responsible for every bad thing that America's facing right now. You can believe that Princess Diana was murdered and also that she's alive somewhere, like living a secret identity as like the Duke of whatever. And like, so for a rational person, you could be like, those two conspiracy theories contradict each other. Like, how can you believe both of them at the same time? And again, like sometimes like the Comedy Central or like Stephen Colbert, but sometimes even CNN will go to like QAnon rallies and try to interview them and be like, what do you believe? What else do you believe? And they just keep talking. And then they talk about two very conflicting conspiracy theories that seem to contradict and cancel each other out. And so then the laugh track comes in where the guy's like, do you realize that you just said this and this? And the person just kind of shrinks and they're like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Who knows? And then your immediate thought was be like, oh, so they're just an idiot. Do they not realize what they've been saying? And yes, but in general, so for like contradictory conspiracy theories, there's just this idea that they believe that like something's up, something is being covered up. And like what they found in like a couple of the studies that Karen was involved in is that some people did indeed endorse these like contradictory conspiracy theories, or like they were likely to entertain two ideas at the same time, because both those ideas are consistent with this underlying idea that there's just something not quite right. So it's not necessarily to say that like they will believe that Princess Diana is dead and at the same time they believe that she's still alive, but they'll entertain the idea that those two things are possible as long as they also entertain the belief that there was just something that wasn't right about those events. So they can just be like, there are theories. These are just theories. You know, they can pull like a true crime girlie and be like, I mean, I don't believe one way or the other, but something definitely did go down. And like both of those kind of encourage this idea that like something's afoot. Whether it was this, whether it was this, I'm not going to choose one way or the other, but it might be both, you know? And for me, before I watched, so that was the end of that incredibly insightful little podcast idea. For me, I had this idea that people got into conspiracy theories because it scratches that like critical thinking itch in your brain. So as someone who was like an AP English girly, so it's kind of like the same way that some like gifted kids treat like media books, is like I'm taking the information that I've been given and I'm reading between the lines, you know. I read between the lines, I've seen the hidden subtext, I've cross-referenced with other sources, and I've compared it to historical accounts, and I can see this text in like a whole new broad way, and all you've done is take the information at its word and didn't do any digging. Like, which one of us is the smart one here? It's the need to like compensate, but like instead of just taking like the information at face value, they want to go above and beyond and like play professor and be like, but is this contradictory? Whatever. I want to keep digging. I want to keep researching, so that way they can be like, well, I've researched and you haven't. Which one of us is the sheeple here? Like, they're always on the lookout for that next gotcha. They're always chasing that high of exposing government lies, of being in on this big super secret club that all your loved ones just aren't ready to hear right now. Like, it kind of taps into that idea that you're smarter, that you can take the world and you can like peer between the lines and you can be like, that seems like fake. Let's see if it matches up with the 1977 whatever. And sometimes the Bible is even thrown in as like, let's see if this matches up with Leviticus. And you're like, oh, brother, sometimes things are just the way they are. So that's that. So that's kind of like why people get into it and like why people are so like steadfast in it. And kind of, now I kind of want to veer into like conspiracy theories in general, because again, they're not all harmless. Like, I like some conspiracy theories, like again, like the JFK mattress stores or money laundering schemes. Those are fun, and I agree with those.
And points were made.
And in general, like, distrust of the government, good. Like, I think with a certain, to a certain degree, it is wise to not just take everything at complete face value. Just be like, you know, because you don't want to ever fall for propaganda. You know what I mean? You never want to be like, there is no war in Ba Sing Se because my official told me not to. Like, no one wants to be like the victim in a conspiracy movie. Like, no one wants to be the one that's like, there's no way that's true, and someone has to lift up the veil for them. Yeah. So I think it's good to like take things with a grain of salt, but by replacing like that with more unhinged claims that hold so little plausibility that you sound certifiably insane, maybe not good. And I'm gonna bring it back. Like, for me, every decent conspiracy theory needs motive and a realistic follow-through plan. Like, again, like the moon landing, decent motive, decent way to get away with it. Like, it kind of falls apart when you really look at the logistics and everything. But like the bigger ones, like, you know, 9/11 being an inside job, like, okay, maybe you got me with motive. Like, maybe the timelines kind of add up where we wanted to invade Iraq and Afghanistan, but we needed a reason, and this was a really good reason. Like, fine, motive might sync up, but the realistic follow-through is, I think, where a lot of conspiracy theories for me completely fall apart. Because an operation that large with no witnesses or testimonials, like, people who used to work at Disney World can't even keep their mouth shut. It's like, do you realize to get away with an operation as big as faking 9/11, that 9/11 was an inside job, how many people you would have to brainwash and kill and threaten, and not a single paper trail, not a single someone with just nothing left to lose posting like a hard drive somewhere. And like, I get like the most diehard conspiracy theories are like, this goes all the way to the top. You don't know the dirt that they have on someone, but like, not one person, an operation that large could take thousands of people. You know how much work and effort it is to keep thousands of people in the dark about something without like a Men in Black forget me stick device? It's like, that's when the realistic follow-through, I think, is where people lose the plot a little bit, where it's like, you can have motive all you want, but it's like, but how and why? You know, the COVID-19, the COVID vaccine has a microchip in it, and it's like, okay, motive, give me one. At least get me with a motive. If you can't get me with the follow-through, at least like tease me a little, give me a little appetizer of a motive. What's the motive? Just because they're like, I want to be evil today. I want to put on my little evil sexy dress and be evil today. It's me, the U.S. government. I would like to be evil this week. Yeah. And like, this idea of what's more likely, I think, is what kind of shakes me out of a lot of like really popular ones. Like that Balenciaga campaign that like TikTok was losing their fucking mind over like a couple of months ago. Like, what's more likely, right? A poor taste shock campaign that was designed for controversy and it accidentally crossed too much of a line, or that a secret ring of pedophiles left little clues so that you at home could discover everything that they've been up to.
Yeah.
Like Pizzagate, the Wayfair child trafficking thing. It's like, why would the world's most powerful people doing the world's most evil crimes make finding them so easy on globally accessible platforms?
Yeah.
It's like, and I know I just said that, like, you know, for an operation that large, like, things would have to slip through the cracks. But, like, I'm talking, like, ex-employees, you know, and even then it's kind of weird because, like, ex-employees might have, like, a motive to lie and make their ex-employees look bad. Not that, like, if you look closely at this one picture, it spells out, like, Biden is a pedophile. It's like, why would they include that? Why would they want you to find that? If that was true, why would they want 4chan to figure them out? It seems counterintuitive, frankly, to the overall plan of it all. And it's like, you are not Men in Black. You are not Nick Cage. This is not the Da Vinci Code. You can't just be like, they slipped up. They accidentally made the world's most evil crimes that could ruin humanity easy to find in a YouTube video. You don't think that shit would get taken down? You don't think that they would get, like, if that was real, that people would go out of their way to debunk it, anything, instead of just having it out there?
Well, and I think it's really interesting, too. I think of the, like, Balenciaga controversy, for example, where when you begin to mix these things with, like, moral alignments and also with celebrity, it can become very messy because specifically with, like, the whole Balenciaga controversy and stuff, I'm totally, like, when all that stuff was going around, not me being like, I am enlightened, I understood, I knew the whole time, but, like, it was very obvious that it was just unfortunate poor taste. I literally remember when that came out, I had to Google. I was like, what the fuck is the problem?
Yeah.
I'm like, what is the issue with these like, I truly did not understand. But I remember when Kim Kardashian made some, like, Instagram post, and she was like, this is disgusting. I can't believe they did that. And frankly, I mean, you know, Kim Kardashian, my close and personal friend. No, I'm kidding. I have no idea what her motive behind that was, or if she even, like, believed it in the first place. But I think because that specific controversy gained so much, like, media attention, she was almost forced to speak on it one way or another. And when so many people are trying to link this back to, like, things that are undeniably horrible, like pedophilia and, like,
sex trafficking,
trafficking and you know, like, all of these things, like, when you're linking it back to those horrible things, why the fuck would Kim Kardashian come out and be like, guys, it's not that big of a deal? Because that would look horrible for her. So it's like, whether or not she even believed that was a thing, she was essentially forced to come out and align with it in a specific way, because she is someone who has done a ton of work with Balenciaga. Like, so much of her photo shoots have been styled by them. She's been styled for red carpets. Like, she had a whole partnership with them. So of course she had to speak out about it. And even with, like, Pizzagate and, like, the Wayfair stuff, I remember certain celebrities were, like, tweeting about it, and they're like, oh my God, this is crazy. And it's like, when you, I'm not saying that, like, celebrities are, you know, legitimate, like, scholarly sources, but I think when you get people like that, who many people value their opinions, they value the things that they have to say, and they are, like, in leadership positions in that way, speaking out about these things and aligning themselves in a certain way, that is also going to help the theory gain momentum and gain, like, quote unquote legitimacy. Which is just, you know, going to the whole, like, way that social media and the internet has influenced and kind of expanded, like, conspiracy theories and the accessibility to conspiracy theories. I think, you know, I wasn't around. I can't really speak to what the climate was, you know, back in the 80s or whatever. But during that time, I feel like it makes sense to me that, like, when people would bring up conspiracy theories or something, it would just kind of be like, oh, like, you know, ha ha ha. And then people who were actually, like, really into it were like, oh my God. Like, you know, everyone thought that they were fucking crazy. But now, when you have, like, all of this traction on social media and all of these, like, quote unquote, you know, legitimate celebrities, like, speaking out about it, it
feels real.
Yes, it feels so much more legitimate.
Like a possibility.
Exactly. And it allows these theories to be perpetuated and to grow in attention. And I think that is a big reason why it has become more relevant in like our everyday lives and in everyday conversations than I would imagine it was, 30, 50 years ago.
And I want to bring up, again, you can find, I'm going to link to this picture also in the show notes, but there is Abby Richards, basically a scientist. I didn't look into this. There's the conspiracy pyramid, where basically like it varies from like things that actually happened to the, that's level 1 at the bottom of the pyramid. And then like we have some questions, and then like things that actually happened. And then there's something called the speculation line. And that's when you get into like we have some questions, we're questioning the world, questioning reality. And then you pass the leaving reality into like an unequivocally false, but mostly harmless ones. And then you pass that into like danger zone, and I want to go through some of these too, because like again, not every conspiracy theory is made equal. Like sometimes it could be like the Denver airport was designed to like be a portal to hell, and you're like, that's fun, like, because what else are you gonna do in Denver if you have a layover in Denver? What are you gonna do? So you can walk around and look at the gargoyles and the incredible like expensive architecture and be like, oh cool, portal to hell.
Yeah.
But then people that are like, it's because the Democrats are, I'm like, okay, fuck off, like you're ruining it, you're wrecking the fun for everyone. So I'm going to start at the tip of this, and this is the grounded in reality one. So these are the things that actually happened. The NSA mass surveillance, the FBI spied on Martin Luther King, Watergate, the Tuskegee experiment, Operation Paperclip, which I cannot believe has been confirmed. Operation Paperclip was we needed to win the space race. We needed to basically beat Russia, and some of the coolest scientific minds that the America had access to at the time just happened to be Nazi scientists. So they did relocate a handful of them to America, change their name so they could continue working for the U.S. government. That's insane, but it's whatever. The big oil pushed the climate disinformation, hashtag Free Britney, Project Mockingbird, Big Tobacco lied about tobacco having links with cancer.
These are all the grounded in reality ones? Okay.
And then we passed the speculation line into like, we have some questions. Area 51, UFOs, Charles Manson, Epstein didn't kill himself, the Denver International Airport, we live in a simulation, Jimmy Hoffa disappearance. Like that's when we're like, what a mysterious little thing. And like, so far, nothing too harmful. This is this is false, unequivocally false, but they're mostly harmless. These are the funny ones. Avril Lavigne has been replaced by a copy. Yeah. Michael Jackson is still alive. Ted Cruz is the Zodiac Killer. Greta Thunberg is a time traveler. Mattress from money laundering scheme. Alien abductions. Cryptids. Kylie Jenner is a clone. The Titanic never sank. You're like, huh? Give me a motive. Elvis lives. Stevie Wonder wasn't blind. Tupac is alive in Serbia.
Yeah.
Those are just the ones where those are funny. Because, like, so you believe Michael Jackson's still alive. Why? What's the motive? You don't have one. But it's funny.
Yeah, it's like, whatever.
Who cares?
Yeah, the Avril Lavigne's been replaced. It's like, okay, you could speculate.
Or a woman has aged.
Yeah.
Or that.
Society hates to see it.
So those are like those three. I can vibe with those, right? Yeah. Like nothing's wrong with those.
It's like whatever, live your life.
Exactly. We pass into this bar of reality denial into dangers to yourself and others. So this is around the point where, so far, so you believe that the government's given you a lie or two about aliens, about clones, about whatever. But that doesn't really harm yourself. That's not in like attracting harmful people, harmful ideologies until we get to this reality denial, danger to yourself and others type of thing. Biden is a robot. COVID is a bioweapon. Soy boys, 5G is giving us cancer. Jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams. The election was stolen. Antifa did January 6th. Global warming is a hoax. Vaccines have microchips. Ivermectin cures COVID. Moon landing was fake. I don't know about that one. Wayfair trafficking. Essential oils cure all illness. Feral people live in the forest. Chemtrails, plandemic. Those are kind of like baby's first like QAnon 4chan boards, where that's kind of starting to like pin the blame on other things. This is like what they consider to be like the danger zone. It turns from like yellow to red. Or depending on like how deep you believe in that, it kind of has like, it has roots in treating other people with ill intent of pinning a lot of blame on marginalized groups, on your political opponents. And then this is when we kind of go into the line we cross then into that final wave of the conspiracy pyramid is the anti-Semitic point of no return, where the rule, it was dangerous to yourself and others. Next level, the world is ruled by supreme shadow elite, promotes hatred and violence towards marginalized groups. Holocaust denial. The Holocaust was fake. Reptilian overlords, the Illuminati, protocols of the Elders of Zion, flat earth, deep state, the whites are being replaced, Nazis on the moon, the trans agenda, the earth is hollow, yeah. George Floyd was a crisis actor, Hollywood is turning your kids gay, Jewish space lasers, cultural Marxism, their secret satanic rituals, Sandy Hook was fake. Like the actual, you hear those and you're like, go fuck yourself. Mm-hmm. Those are like not just reality denial, but actively being so deep into you've lost the plot. And it's just like, especially, all of these are fucked up, all of these. But the things that get me is like the Holocaust denial. Because again, we bring it back to motive. Sorry, I just slapped my leg. In what world? What motive could possibly make Europe as a whole lie about the Holocaust? Mm-hmm. To what end? And the only thing I can think of is Israel. That they're still dealing with that. That was never a guaranteed win. Like, you're telling me that you lied about the death of millions of people to maybe procure the chance of Israel? Why would someone do that? And then that's going like, oh, maybe the larger Jewish population at large would do that, leaning into more the idea that the Jewish people are like a higher secret shadow society, corporation. Yeah. Lizard people is kind of at the top, where you're just like, you can't talk to the detached from reality top of the pyramid, because you're just like, how do I level with there's no leverage. Yeah. You're certifiably insane. Yes, the Sandy Hook was a fake one too. I mean, just like out, because at that point too, it's a complete lack of empathy. Yeah. Also,
well, you're denying people's pain and suffering and like the traumatic experiences that they have lived through and gone through.
So you can have the selfish endorphin rush of like proving people wrong.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's the idea of like there's always going to be a perfect victim. If someone doesn't grieve properly, then you can kind of be the smart one that's like, actually, this doesn't add up, because according to this one Criminal Minds episode that I wrote, real trauma, they don't act like this. They don't behave this way. Yeah, it's like in a lot of not to bring it back to the true crime episode, but like a lot of people who like don't believe victims necessarily is because they don't act the same way that like people assume victims of like domestic abuse or murder or anything should act. Mm-hmm. And so then they're going in with like, no, something's not right here, and then they just like theorize and ignore and like completely lack the empathetic, the link between actual real people and suffering. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, do you hear yourself? Like, these are people. Yeah. Hath thou forgotten?
Well, and it causes active harm to, obviously to these communities, like trans communities and Jewish communities. But I also think back to like the witch trials. Yeah. Like people were fucking like imprisoned and burned, like based off essentially a conspiracy theory. And then same with like the satanic panic. Like people were put in prison and were, removed from society because of these conspiracy theories that took over communities and caused larger societal blames. I think a lot of times people want to find like a person to put that blame on, and a person that they can direct their hate to. And I think that's kind of like what a lot of this stuff goes back down to, is people who are unsatisfied with their lives or who see flaws in society or flaws in their community or whatever, and they want to be able to pin that blame on a specific individual or on specific communities. And it's like, bro, sometimes life just sucks.
Exactly.
It's not the fault of Jewish people, it's not the fault of trans people, it's not the fault of like female doctors. Like, you can't always, sometimes there's no one to blame, and it's like, that sucks, but sometimes there is just like a larger issue that, and I think the thing too that sucks with like a lot of these conspiracy theorists is that like they truly believe that like they're doing good, and that they are serving a greater cause, and that's the most difficult thing to like leverage against, because it's the same thing with people who like think that abortion is like killing babies. It's
by like ripping their limbs off one by one, and
well, and it's like how do you talk to someone and try and get them to understand when they truly believe, because when you really think about it, it's like you truly believe that people are murdering babies. If I thought that people were murdering babies, I would also be upset. And it's like, how do you find a like level ground to communicate with these people on when they are just like so far gone in their own beliefs that there's no, there's no bringing them back down to reality.
When the Travis Scott concert thing, do you remember that?
Yeah.
So like it happened a little. How long ago do you think? Like.
Oh my
Time
God.
is fake.
It had to be like 4 years ago.
So that was the result. So there was a concert, and the crowding just got so intense, and the stage was designed so poorly that people got like trampled and squished to death, basically. And instead of like really tackling like why this happened, why like the security allowed this to go on, there was quite a large conspiracy theory that took hold. It was because they were part of like a demonic ritual, because Travis Scott is like a Satanist now, and they're like, no, look, this is kind of in the shape of a pentagram, and like why people are like, oh my God, Sam Smith dressed up as a Satan. It's every popular Hollywood actor is now Satanism. It's like not like, and I get why they do that. Again, it's like the powerless thing, where instead of realizing that there's just there are circumstances that could affect you that are completely out of your control, you can just be like, oh, that's Satan, that's Democrats, that's the government, that's Big Pharma, like, and just pack that one away and like, try to give yourself a bolster of like, you are in control, you are the master of your own universe if you can just assign things to this big bad. And I remember just like watching in awe as like these incredibly popular videos denouncing Travis Scott as being like some part of like satanic ritual that like sacrificed his fans to like overall like this giant like cult thing. And like, people just died. Like, it hasn't even been 24 hours yet. People died at a concert, and like this immediate need to like completely turn off the empathy part of your brain and like trying to make it into a grander, hidden between the lines religious conspiracy theory. It's like, again, we have lost the plot. And like, and TikTok in general is the biggest dumpster fire for the most outlandish and terrifying conspiracy theories to take hold. Like, one of my favorite YouTubers, Jenny Nicholson, said this on Twitter, and like I copied the whole thing because it's correct and also incredibly insane. She's like, I just ended up on conspiracy theory TikTok, and it's kind of freaking me out how the algorithm fosters these little bubbles where you'll see truly insane theories consumed and shared totally uncritically, and then sends you down a path to other accounts agreeing with the same thing. There's a community claiming Britney Spears is a CIA clone experiment using alien tech to resurrect the soul of Marilyn Monroe. And all of her Instagram mutuals don't exist, and all of their reels are CGI. And these videos have loads of views, no critical comments. They hold meetups and everything. I mean, it's dressed up in the aesthetic of like a true crime podcast, girlies. Like, they're just doing fun aesthetic things while bonding over Britney being a CIA clone. And you're right, it's so frustrating to argue against like the most off-the-wall ones, because conspiracy theories are already convinced of an active cover-up. Like, why would they trust any organization, any scientist, doctor, government official, who they think is either in on it or brainwashed by the overall public? Like, of course they would trust the word of just some random fucker in Nebraska because like big blank hasn't gotten to him yet. Any proof on how this didn't happen only fuels people doubling down. Like, oh, they really don't want us to know about this one. And they spend hours of their short lives finding the bigger clues left behind, like they're playing Scooby-Doo. And I think the reason, it sucks because like I saw this tweet where it was like the left's conspiracy theories are like, like JFK was killed by the FBI, and like the right's conspiracy theories are like they're drinking babies so that Jennifer Lawrence can live forever. And I think why we see so many, especially on like the conspiracy board, like you have lost the plot, like anti-Semitic point of no return, and the reason that I feel like the right politically has normalized these unfounded conspiracy claims is like, again, by instilling an innate trust of government proceedings and feeling the most emotional responses to the most evil scenarios they can come up with for their enemies, it's easier to get like that steadfast, loyal base with no qualms about defeating their opponent through any means necessary, and that they are the only solution. So if you encourage the idea that Democrats are drinking babies' fluids and doing these horrible, horrific things that you can think of off the top of their head, people who don't really want to do much more, like, who are already so far deep into their own, like, bubble, are going to be like, that's evil, and I hate them, and they need to be destroyed. And that's when you, like, rational, logical conclusions don't really exist when you fostered a found base of unfounded evil, like, the most evil, anti-Christian things that you could come up with, because that way, like, you can guarantee that your side politically will never cross over. They'll never think about if you can convince them that gay people are inherently going to rape your children, you're never going to allow gay marriage. You're never going to want to allow drag queens, even trans people, ever near your children because they might have some sort of disease. It's very effective type of messaging. And again, like, it's so hard to reach across the aisle because they're just so convinced that, like, they see what we don't see. And, like, talking to your QAnon grandmothers can be so infuriating because you can be like, that's not true. And they're like, all right, well, you'll figure it out soon enough. I'm smarter than you. You're in their clutches. Once you learn all this, then come back to me. Like, you saying that's not true. Look at these articles. They're like, those articles are all fake and they're all bought by CNN. And, like, it's just like, there's not much you can even say. Like, at some point, unfortunately, like, the point of no return in that graph is kind of true, because unless they come to their own realization, unless they're, like, stuck in an elevator for, like, 75 hours with every political opponent they can think of, it's like a Jew, a trans person, and a QAnon walk into a bar and they're stuck there and they're finally like, oh, you're not so different, you and I. They're not really gonna, they have to have their own self-reflection in order to really be like, oh man, is this? Dang. And it sucks because, like, at no point should you feel responsible for single-handedly deprogramming your QAnon, like, relatives or family friends, because, like, that's a burden on you. You know, if you have people in your life that are outwardly wishing you, like, harm and pain, it's unfair for you to continue being in their lives on the off chance that maybe one day you'll change their minds. But by cutting them out, you're guaranteeing that they will stay that way forever. So it's like this weird in-between gray area where it's like, do I hang on and actively drain myself on the off chance that I could potentially bring my loved one back from this, like, incredible echo chamber that they found themselves in? Or should I just admit that a loss is a loss and I'm not doing anything to prove them wrong and just let them die and vote? Well, and vote however they vote.
It's totally a double-edged sword. It's like, I don't know, because it's true. It's like, that's the best thing that you can do when someone is so far down, you know, that pipeline. The best thing you can do is to remain in contact and is to, you know, try and provide grounded sources and opinions and other perspectives that, you know, they aren't going to immediately, like, detach from and be like, no, like, you're wrong, you're evil, and you know, give them that access to grounded reality that if you know, cut them out of your lives, they're not going to have anymore. But also, like, if they are, like, negatively affecting your life and saying actively harmful things to you, about your community, like, why the fuck would you remain in contact with them? Like, it's just like, there's unfortunately no winning. And I'm gonna say something that's very, like we all fucking know. We all know that, like, social media sucks and, like, is evil to a certain extent. And, like, it is so true how these algorithms just further divide people and further, like, protect people in their own little bubble. I remember one time when I was on TikTok, I made, like, a new TikTok account because I was like, I'm gonna start making fashion content, and that never happened.
Boo. Tomato throwing tomatoes.
But when I made that, like, second account, my original TikTok account had been, like, so the algorithm had been so curated that, you know, like, you know, there were a couple videos that I would swipe past. I'd be like, not really interested. But I wasn't ever coming across anything that was, like, too outside of my comfort zone. algorithm. But then when I created that new TikTok account, obviously it was like a fresh algorithm. And all of this shit that like came up on my page, I was literally horrified by. And it really made me understand like, holy shit, we are really in an echo chamber of our own thoughts and our own beliefs, and we are never receiving any other like nuanced opinions or any other perspectives that might allow us all to, you know, obviously people are going to have different opinions no matter what, like that's just human nature, but
wrong. Everyone should agree with me. I'm right, you're wrong.
I'm correct. But if you know, if we had more access to maybe more like middle ground content that I'm sorry, I'm sounding like a centrist. I'm not. But like, maybe I am when it comes to social media and like algorithms and such. But like, you know, if we all, and it's on my side too. It's totally on my side. I go on my Twitter feed and I'm only seeing things that I agree with, and anything I don't agree with, I'm like block, because I don't want to fucking see it, because it annoys me and it pisses me off.
Yeah.
But it's like, if we had access to differing perspectives, maybe like we would all be better off, because we
wouldn't live in anger all the time. And
yeah.
Be like, how the fuck did you, who are you?
Exactly. Well, because it's like on, you know, either side, like you are so consumed in one perspective and in one ideology that you, of course, think is absolutely correct to a fault, because that is the only information that you are consuming. You're not consuming any other contradictory information. So, of course, when someone comes up to you with a, you know, a different opinion, you're immediately like, well, you're wrong, you're stupid, you're an idiot. And it's like, it's hard not to.
Reported, doxed.
Literally, it's hard not to. And there's just no winning. I feel like I was talking to Nick about this the other day, because we were talking about AI. Because
don't even.
Just like in the past couple weeks,
AI makes my tummy hurt.
Yeah, I'm like, especially with the writer's strike and everything, like AI has been a large topic of conversation, just I guess within the world that I'm in. I don't know if that's true for everyone. But in, you know, my little world, it has been a large topic in just like the past couple of weeks. But I was talking to Nick about AI, and it's like, we've opened Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Like, we can't go back. We can't get rid of it, but we are and it's the same thing with social media. It's like, there's no going back. You can't just like get rid of social media. Like, it's here to stay, but we have to be able to find a way. And it's the same thing with AI. Like, we have to be able to find a way to like integrate it into our lives in a way that like isn't immediately harmful to individuals. And I don't know if we're ever going to get to that point. I have come to a point in my own, I guess, like life journey where I've been trying to separate myself from social media, because it just wasn't having like a positive impact. And I haven't, you know, completely detached myself yet, but I feel like I've gotten to a healthy point with it where like, if I want to scroll through Instagram and like see what my friends are up to, it has to be a more like conscious decision, and it has to be like something that I'm doing with an intention. Whereas before, when I had it on my phone, it was like anytime I had a free second, I was just scrolling through Instagram because I had nothing to do.
Yeah.
And that was just what I did in my free time. And it made me angry and anxious all the time, because you're consuming.
The world is hard.
Yeah, it's like you're consuming all this content that is meant to be controversial and that is meant to get a reaction out of you, because that's what's going to get likes and that's what's going to get shares. And that's, all publicity is good publicity. So it's like, even if it's something that you fucking like is atrocious and you disagree with, you're still going to fucking share it to your you're still going to share it to your friend and be like, oh my God, can you believe, look at this idiot. And
what were you apologizing for just now? Saying the word fucking?
Yeah, because I said it like 5 times in a row. Yeah.
Oh no. On this podcast, no less?
No, I just catch myself sometimes. Yeah, okay, I'm getting off my soapbox. Sorry.
No.
But like it's I don't know. We just have to figure out a way to get out of this, and I don't know how. I don't have any. I'm bringing 0 solutions to the table.
I'm gonna counterbalance you for a second, just because like I've had also like conversations with people about this. That's just like we need to meet in the middle. And the problem though is what I've been realizing is like you'd think, right, that like if someone is so like gay people are evil, you'd think the solution would be a good gay person. in their lives. And so you'd think, like, logically, like, the square peg would fit in the square hole, where, like, the guy would be like, oh, I guess gay people aren't evil after all. And instead what they're finding is, like, okay, you are a good one. They haven't gotten to you yet.
Yeah.
And instead of, like, you existing and trying to be, like, a model, you know, minority all the time is not actually changing people's minds like you'd think it would. You know, like characters on TV, they're like, I'm not racist. I can't believe any of those racist things. My buddy Jack is black and he doesn't think any of these things. So I think that black people are A-okay. And so they're like, oh, you're one of the good ones. Why are you're other people though? Can we talk? And like racist.
Yeah.
It's like always having a real world example, like waiting for someone to realize that you deserve rights by placating and bowing and bending down to people is proving to be ineffective.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it always feels so, and like, you're like, we need to be in the middle. I'm like, we need to be further apart, because I've noticed that whenever, like, at least politically, when someone offers an olive branch, it always seems to be like the Democratic side, where people, like, you know, like Nancy Pelosi will make a statement being like, we need Republicans, we need them. It's like, when's the last time a Republican has said that we need Democrats? When's the last time anyone's like, I mean, the people on the left have some good points, actually. It's always people that are like, no, like, because I think people who are more left-leaning want to be seen as reasonable. They want to be seen as likable. And it's like, you can't always placate and be nice all the time and just cross your fingers and hope and pray that the other side will eventually see your humanity, because that's clearly not working. And constantly, you know, if one person is over here on this side, one person over here on this side, and they're like, let's meet in the middle. And then the person on the left goes a little bit right. They're like, all right, we met in the middle. And what would happen is you would assume the person on the right would also meet in the middle, but instead they go a little bit more right. And then it's like, meet me in the middle. And so now, like, you see, like, the America's left compared to, like, Sweden's left.
Yeah.
It's, like, completely different because, like, we've compromised to the point now where, like, our left is their centrist. And it's to the point now where, like, I also don't have any solutions, because that was what I did that in high school. I was, like, quote unquote, the good liberal who, like, made friends with all these, like, Trumpian type of people, because I'm just like, I think we're bigger than that. And I think that, like, we all just need to get along. And I was doing that, but what I noticed is no one was doing that with me. No one was meeting me where I was at. I always had to be the one that's like, I mean, I disagree, but, like, will you kind of, there's some good points here and there. And I was, like, waiting for and your turn. And your turn to say how many good points that I have. And they would be like, all right, thanks. I know I'm right about those. Thanks. And then they just walk away. And I'd be like, wait a minute. Am I doing something wrong? Or, like, you know, in Florida on the house floor, people would be like, you know what, why don't we just get along? And they would do, like, the cha-cha slide on the floor, and it was supposed to be like a haha, look, the politicians are getting along. And so people were like, they just banned being drag in public. What the fuck are you doing the cha-cha slide with it? Like, do something, you spineless fools. And, like, I also don't have any solutions, because I'm like, what if we're further dividing each other, huh? But this is a podcast. If you listen to Point and Laugh expecting realistic solutions, I'm sorry to say, you're foolish. And you fool! You just have two girls who bitch and have different perspectives on bitching. Congrats. Point and laugh at us.
Yeah. Well, I think, I definitely also absolutely agree with everything you're saying. I think I'm trying to come from, I'm speaking from, like, no.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. When you thought this podcast would start, you really shouldn't have gotten a 5-year-old who's like, haha, you said come.
I'm trying to speak, like, online. I think online, that is, like, more of what, I just fucking hate algorithms. And it's like, how do you tell a robot to be ethical? Like, you can't, like, that's just not how it works. Like, that's just not how it works, unfortunately. But I think, because I think the thing with, like, online and with those algorithms is that it digs you deeper and deeper into the hole, where it's like, obviously in real life, like, that's not as realistic for exactly the reasons that you said. Like, it is sometimes just impossible to reason with people, and you're never going to get someone to fully, like, you know, do a 360.
Yeah, like, you changed your mind. Actually, I think that I am pro-choice.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there, you know, and not to say that's completely impossible. There have been people who've, you know, obviously people grow and change, and their opinions can change as well. But at least in an online space, like, again, like I said, like, we've already fucking opened Pandora's box. Like, there's nothing we can do now. But, like, there are so many moments where I'm like, but what if we did it? What if we could just go back? And what if, like, Twitter never happened? And, you know, and not to say that, like, social media is completely evil. Like, obviously there are so many positive things. You can listen
to this podcast.
Exactly.
Which is what the internet was designed for.
This is what Bill Gates thought of when he
invented the internet.
No. When he was, you know, coming up with Windows and whatnot. But like yeah, again, this is just me like complaining at this point. Like there's no
on a podcast.
You know, yeah, I'm like, I know.
The second you put a podcast mic in front of someone, they're like, and I have issues,
and I have opinions,
and another thing.
No, like, yeah, this is just me. Like, I have no tangible solutions to this. I don't know what the fuck is gonna be done, but like, I know there are steps I have taken on, you know, an individual level that I have seen have impacted me, even just in small ways, and just like in my general, like, not even understanding of the world. I see the world the same fucking way, but like in my own mental health, there have been individualistic like steps that I have been able to take, and that's kind of like really the only solution I've found personally, and it's not even an effective solution because it's literally just like out of sight, out of mind at that point. But yeah, definitely in like a real like physical realm, it's difficult to do that. It's difficult to reason with people and like find a quote unquote middle ground, because you're exactly right. It's like I obviously have opinions where I'm like, no, I'm correct. Like, I'm like, that is the correct opinion to have. That is the correct, like, ethical and moral opinion to have. And, like, obviously I have that opinion because it's my opinion. But
I'm right.
Yeah, but it's like, it's so, yeah, I'm just, like, repeating things at this point, and, like, there's no solution. Say lovey, you know, like, what are you gonna do?
Let's round it out with something funny. What's your funniest conspiracy theory that you believe in?
Ooh, one that I actually believe in, or just, like, one that I think's funny?
What do you think is funny?
That Walt Disney's head is, like, being preserved in the depths of, like, the Disney World cellars or whatever, so that when we get the technology to revive him, his wonderful mind can, you know, provide more entertainment, which is like, okay, Disney's quote unquote wonderful mind, okay.
Mine is also a Disney thing. There's a conspiracy theory that like the turkey legs at Disneyland and Disney World are emu. That they're not real turkeys because they're huge. I've never heard
that one before.
It's like it's like as big as like when you say Andy's coming, the Toy Story characters flop on the ground. That's not true. It maybe once was true. Not true anymore because people kept doing it. It's like emu is more expensive.
Why would they do that?
It's just like a random gross thing that they could think of, that they're like this idea that emu meat. Also, emus are like 10 feet tall. You're not having like a 7-foot turkey leg at Disneyland. They're just slightly large turkey legs because they come from boy turkeys with long legs.
This isn't a conspiracy theory, but it's like a funny, like, I think like Disney misconception that I enjoy, which is that if you give birth at Disney or like on the grounds of Disney World or Disneyland, that you'll get, what is it, like unlimited passes?
Your child will get a free lifetime pass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not true. People have been trying to induce labor at Disneyland, and it's like, wouldn't you rather go to a hospital, you sick freak?
Yeah, I think that's what's funny about it, is that, like, you know, it's not even a conspiracy theory. It's just something that someone heard somewhere, and they're like, oh my god, I'm gonna try and induce myself at fucking Disney World, at Epcot. Like, what? For what? Literally for what?
Living off the land, you're having contractions, you're like, yes. I know the perfect thing to close us out.
Who would want that? Yeah.
If someone comes at you with a conspiracy theory, one up them. It's my favorite tweet of all time is like, you gotta one up them. You'd be like, I believe the moon landing was fake, and it's like, you believe there's a moon? Okay.
I was gonna say, to circle it back to the beginning, just yes and them.
It's like, I believe that the people are made of lizards. It's like, I believe that life is like the Grinch, and we're all living in a snowflake.
Yeah, we are just all little whoos on a dandelion.
You believe there's a moon?
You believe there's a moon?
Sheeple.
Have you ever been called a sheep?
Yes.
Yeah. One time
Leftist internet badge.
I posted literally like a selfie of I was on my way to work, and I like posted a mirror selfie on my Instagram story, and I was wearing a mask, and I had a zebra print mask and a zebra print shirt, and I was like, I don't even remember what the fuck I said. It was something about like looking cute and masking up. It was more clever than that. But some random fucking person who literally had like a private Instagram with like 3 followers, like it was just so clearly a troll account, literally was like, you're a sheep, and like sent me all these articles about how like you're breathing in your own CO2 and like masks are bad, and like, wait, what? Stop.
The feminine urge to comment sheep on Kaylynne's most recent Instagram post. Oh, the post button is just it's so close. Can you delete a comment once you comment something?
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can keep it. Who cares?
I just posted sheep to your life update.
You're alive?
Just seeing it on the
Sheep. I don't even think, actually, I think that's the worst part. I don't even think they called me a sheep. I think they just sent the sheep emoji. which is way worse. Which I was like, you're speaking in emojis? Which, frankly, I'm one to talk. I love speaking in emojis.
It's like, they're actually communicating on a higher telepathic plane than your primitive minds could hardly understand. How about you get on my level? All right, my brain is tired.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. We love you. We're recording on Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
I gotta call my mom back.
All the moms who listen.
My mom tried to call me 3 times during this filming of this podcast.
Happy Mother's Day. Ignore your mom today.
Have you ignored your mom today?
Give it a try. Yes, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Give us a watch, give us a listen,
comment
share
emoji,
with your
please,
friends.
please
Yeah, call us
emoji,
sheep.
Please.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.